African resources are stolen on a massive scale.
The recent global scramble for metals pushes Africa into mining spotlight, the continuation of neo-colonialism. The first scramble for Africa was the partition of Africa, or conquest of Africa, which was the invasion, annexation, division and colonization of most of Africa by 7 Western European powers during a short period known as the New Imperialism between 1881 and 1914. In the new scramble for Africa, neo-colonialism takes the form of economic imperialism, globalization, cultural imperialism, and conditional aid to influence or control a developing country, instead of the previous colonial methods of direct military control or indirect political control. Neo-colonialism is the regressive impact of unregulated forms of aid, trade, and foreign direct investment, and the collaboration of African leaders with foreign leaders to ensure that the interests of both are met with little concern for the development, sustainability, and poverty reduction and well-being in African countries. The relationship is asymmetrical, or at the cost of African states and their people, who are dependent rather than interdependent and do not profit through development or sustainability. They face destruction of their culture, religion, and education through continued advancement of foreign culture, religion, and language to supplant the African and growing radicalization of the population. The recent global scramble for metals pushes Africa into mining spotlight. The need to secure new sources of metal for the energy transition among consents on top producer Russia has increased the impact goes to put Africa in risk. Major miners' appetite shift focuses on Africa as they have few alternatives to the resource-rich continent. Corporations and investors are considering projects that they may have previously overlooked, while governments are also looking to Africa, anxious to ensure their countries can secure enough metals to feed an accelerated net zero push. Government official in years attending, organizers say, as well as representatives from the Japan Oil, Gas and Metals Corporation, in sign of rich countries' rising concern about securing supply. The reality is that the resources the world wants are typically located in difficult places, said Stephen Fox, executive chairman of New York-based political risk consultancy, Veracity Worldwide. The US administration wants to position itself as a strong supporter of battery metals projects in sub-Saharan Africa, he said. It has been extensively discussed at the US-Africa Leaders Summit 2022 in Washington. Mining often uses large amounts of water, and it can pollute rivers, streams, groundwater, and other sources of water for the community. Mining may also make it difficult for a community to produce its own food by taking up agricultural or grazing land or by polluting soil or air. The United States has voiced support for new domestic mines, but projects have stalled. Rio Tinto's Resolution copper project, for example, was halted over Native American claims on the land and conservation issues. Certainly the risks of mining in sub-Saharan Africa remain high. Africa's rich mineral resources, which are undoubtedly in abundance, are once again at the center of excessive mineral extraction by foreign masses. This is to the peril of the locals, who are always left bearing the brunt, as they are often used to do the manual labor of extracting the minerals that are then shipped or flown out of Africa. More often than not, Africans are at the forefront of making sure the rich natural resources are moved out of the continent for a pittance, and officials pocket much of the so-called pittance, leaving the masses with nothing but bruised instead of greased palms. Africa always has the challenges when the international mining companies are not contributing enough to the well-being of communities they are in. Only few companies are ploughing back into the communities. Moreover, African countries are unable to exploit their own natural resources. When it comes to why international mining organizations are continuously being given mining rights to excavate resources in most African countries, the case is highly incompatible, as it comes down to giving it to the highest bidder, and mostly local miners do not have sufficient resources, or there will be suspicion within. Furthermore, the corrupted government officials tend to do it their way. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video. If you want to watch and learn more about Africa, please like, share and subscribe for more.
The small town at River Pra is a hotspot for gold digging. The history of gold exploration dates back centuries. When Europeans first arrived, they named this place Gold Coast. They traded gold for weapons. The African trade partners used these weapons to enslave their neighbors, which in turn they sold for more weapons for more slaves. So back then, the precious metal caused a lot of problems.
When we were very young, we see that the Pra was very clean and, golden color. We used to swim, we used to fish in the river, but now, because of the activities of the Galamsey, we can't use all these things that I mentioned.
Rodney talked about underdevelopment as a relationship of exploitation. One country by another, one class over another. And that statement is as critical today as it was in 1972, because the situation has gotten worse. African resources are stolen on a massive scale. In financial terms, the UN Commission on Trade and Development estimates that the continent loses nearly $88 billion